There are four flashes in a photo booth strip. The first one caught me holding a cardboard champagne glass on a stick and looking like a man who had made peace with being the reliable single friend at every wedding. The second caught Hannah Whitaker laughing so hard her nose wrinkled. The third caught her climbing into my lap. And the fourth caught my best friend kissing me like she had been waiting 2 years to ruin my life in the most beautiful way possible. I'm Ryan Walsh. I was 25 then, old enough to know better than to fall in love with my best friend, and apparently young enough to sit there frozen while she slid one hand into my hair and changed the meaning of every ordinary Tuesday we'd ever spent together. The wedding was at a converted brick warehouse outside Columbus. All tall windows, white flowers, string lights, and relatives pretending they didn't care who sat at the singles table. I worked as a middle school science teacher, which meant I had spent years developing patience, crowd control, and the ability to identify bad decisions before they exploded. None of that helped me with Hannah. She was a pastry chef at a little bakery downtown, the kind of woman who could make a room warmer just by walking through it carrying a tray of lemon bars. She was wearing a rust-colored satin dress that made her brown eyes look almost gold, her dark hair pinned up loosely with a few pieces escaping around her face. Earlier that afternoon, I'd watched her help the bride's grandmother fix a necklace clasp with the seriousness of a surgeon. That was Hannah. Soft hands, sharp mouth, big heart. No patience for nonsense unless the nonsense was me. We'd been best friends for just over 2 years. We met when my apartment ceiling started leaking into hers, and she marched upstairs with a mixing bowl full of brown water and said, "Hi, I'm your downstairs neighbor. Either your shower is haunted or you owe me a new rug." I bought her the rug. She brought me apology cupcakes the next day, even though I was the one apologizing, and somehow that became coffee on Saturdays. Grocery runs, emergency flat tire help, movie nights where she stole my blanket and criticized my popcorn distribution system. People assumed things about us. Our friends had opinions. My sister once asked if I was emotionally house-sitting for a relationship I was too scared to move into. I told her Hannah and I were just friends. My sister looked at me the way teachers look at students who insist the dog ate their homework but forgot they submitted it online. The truth was more complicated. Hannah had come out of a rough relationship the year before we met, the kind that didn't leave bruises but did leave rules in a person's head. Don't be too much. Don't ask for too much. Don't trust the man who says he's fine with your dreams until they inconvenience him. And me? I had a long, undignified history of being the safe choice until someone more exciting showed up. So we stayed in our lane. Mostly. At the wedding, our friends Marcus and Emily had assigned us to the same table because, according to Emily, you two behave better when supervised together. This was false. Hannah behaved better when supervised. I became an accessory to whatever she thought was funny. During cocktail hour, she leaned beside me at the bar and nodded toward a groomsman trying to flirt with the violinist. $10 says he opens with, "So, do you play requests?" "He's not that bad," I said. The groomsman pointed at the violin. Hannah tilted her head. "Wait for it." The poor man said something. The violinist's smile froze. Hannah held out her palm without looking at me. I put a $10 bill in it. "You're terrifying," I said. "I'm observant." "You predicted one awkward sentence." "I predicted a man's entire personality." I laughed, and she looked pleased in that quiet way she had when she got me to break first. That was one of the dangerous things about Hannah. She didn't just make me laugh. She watched for it, like my joy was something she took personally. Later, during dinner, her knee brushed mine under the table. Once, I could have dismissed it. Twice, maybe the chairs were close. The third time, she left it there. I looked down at our knees touching, then up at her. She took a sip of champagne and said, "Your tie is crooked. My knee is also apparently in your jurisdiction. You need supervision in multiple areas." I should have moved. I didn't. Neither did she. Across the table, Marcus's aunt asked loudly if we were next. Hannah nearly choked on her drink. I said, "Next for what?" "For marriage, honey." Hannah reached for her water and missed it by an inch. I slid the glass into her hand. "She means our synchronized swimming debut." Hannah coughed, laughed, then pressed the cool glass to her cheek. "Ryan has no rhythm." I have rhythm. You clap on 1 and 3. That is a personal attack at a sacred event. She smiled at me over the rim of her glass, and for 1 second, the reception noise softened. I noticed the tiny gold flecks in her eyes. I noticed the pulse at her throat. I noticed that my hand was still close enough to hers that if either of us moved an inch, it would look intentional. Then the DJ called everyone to the dance floor, and Hannah stood too fast. I need air, she said. Not upset, not cold, just suddenly overwhelmed. I followed her to the hallway outside the reception room, where framed engagement photos of Marcus and Emily lined the brick wall. Late afternoon sunlight came through the industrial windows, making rectangles on the polished floor. Hannah stood near a table covered in wedding favors, rolling one shoulder like her dress strap had been bothering her. You okay? I asked. She nodded. Yes. Weddings just make people weird. People were weird before weddings. True. Weddings give them microphones. I smiled. Aunt Linda meant well. Aunt Linda smelled blood in the water. She asked if we were next, not if we were hiding a body. Hannah looked at me then, and the humor faded just enough for something else to show through. Do you ever think about it? She asked. My heart did something deeply inconvenient. Bodies? Don't be cute. I'm rarely accused of that. She folded her arms, then unfolded them, then smoothed the front of her dress. Nervous. Hannah almost never looked nervous. Do you ever think about what people think we are? She asked. The safe answer was no. The honest answer was every time she fell asleep on my couch with her feet tucked under my thigh. Every time she called me first when something good happened. Every time she wore my old college sweatshirt and looked more at home in it than I ever had. I leaned back against the wall and tried to sound casual. People think a lot of things. That wasn't an answer. No, I said quietly. It wasn't. Her eyes held mine. For a moment, I thought she was going to say it. Whatever it was. Whatever had been gathering between us under jokes and grocery lists and late-night texts about burnt caramel. Then the reception doors burst open, and 3 bridesmaids came out laughing. There you are, one of them said, grabbing Hannah's wrist. Photo booth. Bride's orders, everyone has to do 1 strip for the guest book. Hannah blinked, the moment snapping in half. Great, she said, too brightly. Yes, love-forced documentation. I started to step back. You go ahead. She caught my sleeve. Not hard, just enough. You too, she said. The photo booth was tucked in the corner of the reception room behind a velvet curtain next to a table full of props. Oversized sunglasses, feather bows, fake mustaches, a chalkboard sign that said, "Leave us proof you had fun." The line moved quickly. People stumbled out laughing, holding their strips, already arguing over who looked worst. When it was our turn, Hannah grabbed a cardboard crown and shoved it onto my head. Dignity suits you, she said. I teach 8th graders. Dignity left me years ago. She picked up a tiny veil on a headband, stared at it, then put it back like it had burned her. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. Don't, she said. I didn't say anything. You have a very loud, quiet face. We stepped inside. The booth was smaller than it looked from the outside. My shoulder pressed against the wall. Hannah's hip brushed my thigh as she tried to sit beside me on the narrow bench. Who designed this? She muttered. A dollhouse architect? Probably Aunt Linda. Hannah laughed, and the curtain fell closed. For a few seconds, we were sealed away from the music and champagne and questions. Just the 2 of us in a soft black box, knees touching again, the little screen counting down. 5, 4, 3. She looked at me, and something in her face changed. Not fear, decision. Hannah, I said. 2. She took the cardboard champagne glass from my hand and tossed it somewhere near our feet. 1. Flash, the first picture. She laughed, but it came out shaky. The screen counted down again. 5. You know, she said, I hate that everyone keeps asking. About us? About us not being us. My mouth went dry. 4. Hannah. 3. I hate that I don't know how to answer. Flash. The second picture. She wasn't laughing anymore. Outside the curtain, someone yelled for more props. The DJ announced the cake cutting in 10 minutes. Life continued, ridiculous and loud, while Hannah Whitaker looked at me like she was standing on the edge of something and asking if I'd catch her or step back. The screen counted down a third time. 5. She shifted. 4. Her hand landed on my shoulder. 3. Then, before I could even ask what she was doing, she swung one leg carefully over mine and settled into my lap. My entire body forgot its job. "Hannah," I said, barely above a whisper. Her face was inches from mine. Her hand moved to the side of my neck, warm and trembling. "Tell me to get off," she whispered. I should have said something responsible, something careful. Something that respected 2 years of friendship and one very crowded wedding reception outside a very thin curtain. Instead, I put my hands at her waist to steady her and said, "I don't want to." Flash. The third picture. Her breath caught. The screen began its final countdown. 5. For 2 years we had been almost too close, almost too honest, almost brave. 4. Her thumb brushed my jaw. 3. "Ryan," she whispered, and my name sounded different in her mouth than it ever had before. 2. She leaned in. 1. And right before the last flash, my best friend kissed me. Not a joke. Not a mistake. Not a wedding dare. A real kiss. Soft at first, then certain enough that my hands tightened at her waist and every careful wall I had built between us cracked straight down the middle. The flash went off white behind my closed eyes, then the curtain ripped open. Hannah froze against me. I looked past her shoulder and saw Emily, the bride, standing there, in her white dress with one hand over her mouth and our fresh photo strip dangling from the machine beside her. But it wasn't Emily's shocked face that made my stomach drop. It was what Hannah whispered so only I could hear. "I didn't do that because of the wedding." For one impossible second, nobody moved. Hannah was still in my lap, her hand still at my neck, her mouth still close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath. Emily stood outside the booth in her wedding dress, staring at us like she had just discovered a secret room in her own house. Then, because she was Emily, she slowly lowered her hand from her mouth and whispered, "Finally." Hannah scrambled off me so fast her knee hit the booth wall. "Ow!" she hissed. I reached for her automatically. "You okay?" "I'm fine. I'm great. I'm a graceful woodland creature." "You nearly concussed yourself on plywood." "Shut up, Ryan." Emily's eyes went bright with the kind of joy that made me nervous. "I'm not saying anything." "You just said, 'finally'?" Hannah accused. "That was a prayer of gratitude." "Emily, I'm leaving." Emily held up both hands, but she was grinning. I saw nothing, except everything, but spiritually, nothing. She disappeared back into the reception before either of us could stop her. The curtain swung gently in her wake. Hannah and I sat in the little booth with our knees touching, the photo strip hanging from the slot beside the screen. Neither of us reached for it. Outside, the DJ announced the bride and groom would cut the cake soon. People cheered. Glasses clinked. The world, rude as ever, refused to pause for my entire life, rearranging itself. Hannah looked at her hands in her lap. So, I said. "That happened. It did. Out loud, apparently. With photographic evidence." Her mouth twitched, but she didn't quite smile. I wanted to be careful. I wanted to be good at this. But my heart was still pounding from the way she had said, "I didn't do that because of the wedding." I leaned forward. "Hannah." She closed her eyes. "Please don't say we should forget it." That hit me harder than the kiss. I wasn't going to. Her eyes opened. I reached for the photo strip then, mostly because my hands needed something to do before I did something reckless, like pull her back into my lap in a public photo booth at a wedding reception. The strip was still warm. Frame 1, me looking ridiculous in a cardboard crown. Frame 2, Hannah laughing but looking at me instead of the camera. Frame 3, her in my lap, my hands at her waist, both of us caught in the exact second before everything changed. Frame 4, the kiss. It was a little blurry. Her face tilted up, my head bent down, my fingers curled into the satin at her waist. It should have looked scandalous or messy. Instead, it looked inevitable. Hannah stared at it over my shoulder. "Oh," she said softly. "Yeah, I look terrified. You look brave." Her gaze flicked to mine. I meant it. More than I knew how to say without sounding like I'd been saving the sentence in my chest for months. She swallowed. "Ryan, I don't know what I'm doing." "Good, me neither. Very balanced." A laugh escaped her, small and shaky. "You're making jokes because you're nervous." "I'm making jokes because if I don't, I'm going to say something huge in a rented booth next to a fake mustache." Her smile faded into something tender. "What kind of huge?" The safe part of me begged for more time, but Hannah had climbed into my lap and kissed me before the last flash. She had jumped first. I looked at the fourth picture, then back at her. The kind where I admit I've wanted to kiss you for a long time. Her lips parted. I kept going before cowardice could catch up. "Not in some casual way. Not because you looked beautiful tonight, although you do. Painfully, distractingly." Color rose in her cheeks. "I mean, I wanted it when you fell asleep during that terrible submarine movie and drooled on my sleeve." "I did not drool." "You absolutely did. That was condensation." "From your face?" She pressed her lips together, trying not to laugh. I softened my voice. "I wanted it when you called me after your first big catering order and cried because the client loved the raspberry tarts. I wanted it when you bought me that ugly frog mug because one of my students said I looked like a depressed amphibian. That child had insight. I wanted it on ordinary days," I said. That's what scared me." Her expression changed and the teasing slipping away. The booth felt even smaller. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you're my person," I said. And I didn't want wanting more to cost me what I already had. Hannah looked down, but not before I saw her eyes shine. I hated that we were still half hidden behind a curtain with drunk cousins 10 feet away. She deserved a quiet room, a careful answer, my whole attention. But maybe love didn't wait for perfect settings. Maybe it burst out between a cardboard crown and cake cutting because it was tired of being polite. Hannah reached for my hand, her fingers slid between mine. "I wanted ordinary days too," she said. My breath caught. She kept her eyes on our joined hands. That was the part that scared me. With you, it wasn't just attraction. Though, yes, obviously. "Obviously," I repeated, because my brain snagged on that word like a sweater on a nail. She rolled her eyes, but her blush deepened. "Don't make me regret feeding your ego." "My ego is starving. Continue." "You have nice hands," she said, as if annoyed by the fact. "And you do this thing where you listen with your whole face. And sometimes when you're explaining science stuff, you get too excited and forget I am not one of your 8th graders. That sounds romantic." "It is, unfortunately." I laughed under my breath. She squeezed my hand. "But it was more than that. I started saving stories for you. Not because they were important, because I wanted to hear what you'd say. And then one day I realized I was measuring all my good news by how fast I could tell you." I couldn't look away from her. "You should know," she said, voice quieter. "I'm scared I'll mess this up." "Us?" She nodded. I brushed my thumb over her knuckles. "Me too." "That's not comforting." "It's honest." Her shoulders eased a little. "I can work with honest." Outside, the DJ called for everyone's attention. Emily and Marcus were laughing near the cake table. Someone tapped on the booth frame. "Lovebirds," Marcus called. "Cake is happening, and Emily says if you're making out in there, save her a slice of gossip." Hannah groaned and dropped her forehead against my shoulder. The contact went straight through me. I lifted our joined hands and kissed her knuckles before I could overthink it. She went still. When she raised her head, her eyes were soft in a way I had never let myself imagine. "That was unfair," she said. "What was?" "The hand kiss? Very sneaky. Very 19th century rake of you." "I apologize for my scandalous behavior." "No, you don't." "No," I admitted. "I don't." We stepped out of the booth together, still holding hands. That was the first thing people noticed. Not the kiss, not the photo strip, which Hannah snatched and folded into her little clutch like evidence in a trial. Our hands. Marcus saw it and beamed. Emily saw it and pressed both hands to her heart. Aunt Linda saw it from across the room and mouthed something that looked like I knew it. Hannah leaned toward me as we joined the crowd. If anyone asks, we're undercover. As what? Two normal adults who make normal adult choices. We have never been those people. Then sell it, Walsh. During the cake cutting, she stayed close enough that her arm brushed mine. When the bride smeared frosting on Marcus's mouth and he retaliated by kissing it off her thumb, everyone cheered. Hannah watched them, smiling, but there was a tremor in it. I bent slightly. Hey, she looked up. Still here, I said. Her expression softened. I know, she said. That's the problem. I didn't get to ask what she meant. The music shifted into something slow and warm, and couples began drifting back onto the dance floor. Hannah glanced at it, then at me. Ryan? Yeah? If we go back to being weird and careful after tonight, I might actually throw your frog mug out the window. I stared at her. She lifted her chin, challenging me, but her hand tightened around mine. There it was. Not just desire, a choice, a dare, a request. I tugged gently, bringing her closer. Then dance with me. Her breath caught again, and I wondered if I would ever get used to being the reason. I thought you had no rhythm, she said. I'm willing to be supervised. She smiled, real this time. I led her onto the dance floor and put one hand at her waist. She placed hers on my shoulder, her other hand still in mine. At first, we left polite space between us, as if the universe hadn't just caught us kissing in 4x6 proof. Then Hannah stepped closer. Her body aligned with mine, warm and certain. I forgot every joke I had ever known. She rested her cheek near my jaw. This is nice. It is. You're stiff. You climbed into my lap 15 minutes ago. And you're still thinking about that? I will be thinking about that when I'm 90. She laughed softly against my neck, and I closed my eyes for one beat. When the song ended, she didn't pull away. Instead, she looked up at me and said, Can we leave after dessert? Together? Her gaze held mine. Yes, Ryan, together. I should have said we'd talk. I should have made a plan. Instead, I bent my head and kissed her once, gentle and brief, right there at the edge of the dance floor. When I pulled back, she smiled like I had answered correctly. Then her phone buzzed inside her clutch. She ignored it. I felt stupidly grateful, but a minute later, it buzzed again. Hannah's smile faltered. She opened the clutch and the photo strip slipped partly into view beside the glowing screen. I saw only one word before she turned it away. Derek, her ex. Hannah saw me see the name. For half a second, all the warmth drained from her face. Not because she wanted the call, because something old in her still knew how to brace for it. I hated Derek then with a sharpness that surprised me. Not because he was an ex, because he had trained a woman like Hannah to flinch at a phone. She silenced the call and pushed the clutch shut. You don't have to explain, I said. She gave me a look. That is both kind and deeply suspicious. I'm trying a new thing called emotional maturity. How's that going? Poorly. I want to throw your phone into the cake. The corner of her mouth lifted. Good. I would take any smile I could get. She glanced toward the exit hall. Can we step outside? Yeah. I didn't touch her back like I was guiding her away from danger. I held out my hand. She looked at it, then at me. Then she took it. That mattered. Maybe more than kissing in front of the photo booth. This was quieter, deliberate. Her choosing contact when she could have folded into herself. We slipped out through a side door into the courtyard behind the venue. Night had settled soft and blue over the brick walls. The reception music came through muted, all bass and distant laughter. A few lanterns hung above patio tables and the air smelled like summer rain, cut grass, and somebody's cigarette from half a block away. Hannah let go of my hand only to wrap her arms around herself. I shrugged off my suit jacket and held it open. She arched an eyebrow. This is very gallant. I contain multitudes. You contain emergency granola bars and opinions about proper dishwasher loading. And gallantry. She stepped closer, letting me drape the jacket around her shoulders. My hands lingered at the lapels a second longer than necessary. Neither of us pretended not to notice. Her phone buzzed again inside the clutch. She closed her eyes. I kept my voice even. Is he bothering you? He's texting because he saw a picture. My stomach tightened. Of us? Probably. She pulled out her phone and showed me the lock screen. Derek. So, this is what you do now? Derek. Classy. Derek. Does he know how you get when you're scared? Derek. Call me, I read them once. Then again, because my brain wanted to find a different meaning, there wasn't one. Hannah watched my face carefully as if my reaction might become another problem she had to manage. So I handed the phone back and said, he uses punctuation like a villain in a teen drama. A startled laugh broke out of her. I love that sound too much for a man who had only officially been allowed to love her for about 20 minutes. I'm serious, I said. That last period is sinister. She shook her head, but some tension left her shoulders. You're ridiculous. Frequently. I'm also embarrassed. Don't be. Ryan. I mean it. I leaned against the brick wall beside her, leaving space but staying close. You didn't summon him with a kiss. He's just being loud near something good. Her expression shifted. Something good. I hadn't planned to say it, but once I had, I wouldn't take it back. Hannah looked down at the phone. He always knows when I'm happy. How? Mutual friends, social media, bad luck. She swallowed. Control has a weird sense of timing. I let that sit between us. Then I asked, what do you want to do? She glanced up, surprised. Not what should we do? She asked. No. What do you want? The question seemed to land somewhere deep. I want to block him, she said slowly, and not explain myself, and not feel guilty about it. Excellent list. And I want to not ruin tonight. You're not ruining tonight. Her eyes flashed. I know that logically. Emotionally, I feel like I brought a raccoon into a ballroom. Honestly, some receptions could use a raccoon. Ryan. What? Little bandit hands? Tiny chaos, very festive. She laughed again, then pressed her fingers to her mouth like she was trying to hold herself together. I reached for her free hand. Han. The nickname slipped out before I could stop it. I'd called her that 100 times. Tonight it felt different. She heard the difference too, her fingers curled around mine. I don't want him in this, she said. Whatever this is, I don't want my old fear sitting at the table with us. Then he doesn't get a chair. Her eyes softened. And for what it's worth, I said, I do know how you get when you're scared. She went still. I turned toward her fully. You make jokes. You clean things that are already clean. You pretend you're fine because you hate needing anything. You over-apologize for taking up space, which drives me insane because you should be taking up more. Her lips parted slightly. And sometimes, I continued, you disappear into your head and look like you're waiting for someone to be disappointed in you. The courtyard went quiet around us. I notice, I said. Not because it's a burden. Because it's you. Her eyes shone in the lantern light. That's dangerous, she whispered. What is? Being seen like that. I stepped closer, slow enough for her to move away. She didn't. Then see me back, I said. A tiny line appeared between her brows. What? I'm scared too, not of Derek, of doing this wrong, of wanting you so much that I forget to be patient, of waking up tomorrow and finding out you regret kissing me. I won't. She said it fast, fierce, my chest loosened. I won't, she repeated, quieter. I might panic. I might overthink. I might make 100 cupcakes at 3 in the morning and call it processing. That sounds delicious, but I won't regret you. There are moments when a person says something so plainly that it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like truth finally setting its bags down. I lifted our joined hands and pressed them against my chest. Then block him. She looked at me. Not for me, I said. For you. For the part of you that wants to enjoy cake and terrible dancing and maybe, if I'm very lucky, kiss me again before midnight. Her mouth curved. Only maybe? I'm trying not to be greedy. You're failing. Good. Hannah unlocked her phone. Her thumb hovered for a second, then moved with sudden certainty. Block caller, block contact. Done. She stared at the screen, breathing hard like she'd just run up a hill. Then she laughed once, disbelieving and shaky. I did it. You did. I feel like I should hear trumpets. I can hum. Please don't. I took the phone from her hand gently, slipped it back into her clutch, and set the clutch on the patio table beside us. Then I waited. Hannah looked at me under the soft lantern glow, wearing my jacket over that rust-colored dress, her hair falling loose around her face. The folded photo strip tucked somewhere inside her bag like a promise neither of us had fully read yet. She stepped into me, not collapsing, not hiding, choosing. Her hand slid up my shirt front and mine settled carefully at her waist. I want to kiss you without a countdown, she said. My answer was embarrassingly breathless. Please. She smiled right before her mouth met mine. This kiss was slower than the one in the booth. No flash, no curtain, no audience gasping finally from the other side. Just Hannah rising onto her toes, my jacket slipping off one shoulder, her fingers curling in my tie like she had every intention of keeping me there. I kissed her like I was trying to tell her ordinary days could be holy too. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. Still scared? I asked. Yes, me too. Still want this? I brushed my thumb along the curve of her waist. More. Her breath caught, and for a second she looked almost shy. Then she said, Good. Because I'm taking your jacket. I assumed. And maybe your frog mug survives. Generous. And tomorrow, she said, voice careful but brave, I want breakfast. With me? With you? Somewhere that serves pancakes and doesn't have a guest book. That sounds dangerously like a first date. It does, doesn't it? I grinned. Hannah Whitaker, are you asking me out? She lifted her chin. I am informing you of your schedule. Very romantic. You like it. I love it. The word hung there, too big, too early, too honest. Hannah's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't run from it. I cleared my throat. The schedule. I love the schedule. She studied me for a long beat. Then, softly, Sure you do. Before I could recover, the side door opened and Emily poked her head out. There you are. Bouquet toss in 5, and Hannah, if you don't come in, my cousin Bree is going to catch it and start a speech. Hannah groaned. We can't allow that. Emily's gaze dropped to my jacket around Hannah's shoulders, then to our hands still linked. Her smile gentled. You two okay? Hannah looked at me. Not for permission. For partnership. I squeezed her hand. She smiled back at Emily. Yeah, we are. We went inside together. And this time, when the whole room saw us holding hands, Hannah didn't loosen her grip. She tightened it. Hannah did not catch the bouquet. This was because when Emily turned her back and launched it, Hannah took one. Strategic step to the left and let the flower sail directly into the arms of a woman named Bree, who immediately screamed like she had been chosen by God and wedding Pinterest. You dodged, I said. Hannah looked up at me, completely unrepentant. I preserved the natural order. You were afraid of a bouquet. I was afraid of Bree not getting her moment. I'm generous. You ducked behind a centerpiece. Generously. Bree began making a speech anyway. Emily clapped a hand over her cousin's mouth while Marcus laughed so hard he had to lean on a chair. Hannah's fingers were still tangled with mine. That was the part I couldn't stop noticing. Through the bouquet toss, through coffee being poured, through one of Marcus's uncles attempting the worm with the confidence of a man whose insurance deductible was too high. Hannah kept holding my hand, not like she'd forgotten, like she remembered on purpose. At our table, Aunt Linda leaned over and said, Ryan, honey, you look happier. Hannah nearly dropped her fork. I said, It's the cake. It is not the cake. The frosting is excellent. Aunt Linda gave me a look. I have been married 38 years. I know frosting and I know smitten. Hannah made a small choking sound. I patted her back. Careful, the natural order. Under the table, she pinched my thigh. I deserved it. By the time Emily and Marcus ran through a tunnel of sparklers toward their getaway car, Hannah was wearing my jacket, carrying her heels in one hand and leaning into my side like it was something we had always done. The night had cooled. Guests clustered outside the venue, laughing and calling goodbye. Sparks glittered in the dark. Emily's veil fluttered as she leaned out the window and shouted, "Don't mess this up!" I couldn't tell if she meant her marriage or us, probably both. Hannah waved with her shoes. "Love you." The car pulled away. Everyone cheered. Then the crowd began to scatter, and suddenly the evening had edges again. Hannah and I stood near the curb beneath a street lamp, the music gone quiet behind us. Her shoulder brushed my arm, my tie was loose. Her lipstick was mostly gone, which did inconvenient things to my memory. She glanced sideways. "So," I smiled. "We say that a lot. It's a useful word for people having emotional emergencies. Are you having one?" "A small, well-dressed one." I turned toward her. "Want me to take you home?" Her eyes searched mine. "Do you want to take me home?" "Yes." The answer came too fast, too rough, and her brows lifted. I cleared my throat. "I mean, safely, respectfully. With a normal friend," I stopped. "No, not friend. I don't know what word goes there yet." Her expression softened. I forced myself to keep going. "I want more time with you. That's what I mean." Hannah's smile was slow and luminous. "Good save. Was it?" "Barely." A drop of rain hit my cheek, then another. Hannah looked up. "Oh no. Afraid you'll melt?" "I'm 70% sugar. It's a valid concern." The sky opened. Guests shrieked and scattered toward cars. Hannah laughed, bright and startled, and I grabbed her hand as we ran under the awning of a closed flower shop next door. By the time we reached cover, her hair had loosened completely, dark strands clinging to her cheeks. My jacket was damp around her shoulders. She was breathless, smiling, and so beautiful it made me feel stupid. She wiped rain from her nose. "Well, elegant exit ruined." "I don't know, very cinematic." "Only if one of us confesses something dramatic." "I'm a middle school teacher. I can name all the planets in order." "That's not dramatic." "Pluto deserved better." She laughed and leaned back against the brick, still holding my hand. Rain sheeted down beyond the awning, turning the streetlights hazy. The wedding noise faded behind us. For the first time all night, nobody was watching. Hannah looked at our hands. "This is the part where I usually make a joke." "You've made several." "No, I mean, when something matters." I went quiet. She rubbed her thumb over my knuckles. "I don't want to perform my way through this with you." My heart squeezed. "I like your jokes," I said. "I know, that's how I trap people." "Effective." Her smile flickered. "But I want you to know when I'm using them to hide." "Okay? I'm hiding right now." The rain filled the silence. I stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her everywhere I wanted to. "From what?" Her throat moved. "From wanting too much," she said. That undid me a little. I lifted my free hand and brushed a wet strand of hair from her cheek. "You can want too much with me." Her eyes shone. "That's a reckless thing to promise." "I'm not promising perfect. I'm promising you won't scare me off by wanting." She stared at me like she was trying to decide whether to believe in doors after years of walls. Then she tugged me closer by my tie. "Ryan?" "Yeah?" "I want pancakes tonight." I blinked. "And I want breakfast tomorrow," she continued. "Technically, two different pancake events if you're brave." "I'm listening." "I want to keep the photo strip. I want you to text me when you get home even if you leave my apartment 5 minutes earlier. I want to sit next to you at movies and not pretend it's because the couch is small." My pulse stumbled. "I want," she said, softer now, "to kiss you when I feel like kissing you." I slid my hand to her waist. "That one seems urgent." "It is." So I kissed her under the flower shop awning while rain hammered the sidewalk and wedding sparklers burned out in puddles behind us. She made a small sound against my mouth, half relief, half hunger, and every careful thought I had scattered. Her fingers curled into my shirt. Mine spread over the small of her back, holding her close but not trapping her, letting her decide how near. She decided very near. When she finally pulled back, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were dazed. "I have another want," she whispered. My voice nearly failed me. Okay, I want you to stop looking like you're waiting for permission to be happy. That landed with brutal accuracy. I looked down. Hannah touched my jaw, turning my face back to hers. You do that, like you're grateful for scraps before anyone even offers you a meal. I swallowed. She knew, of course she knew. Hannah noticed everything, including the parts of me I dressed up as patience. I've been easy to leave, I said, before I could make it prettier. Her face changed. I laughed once, without humor. That sounded less pathetic in my head. It didn't sound pathetic. It feels pathetic. No. Her thumb moved gently along my jaw. It sounds like someone taught you to expect less. I couldn't answer. She leaned in, not kissing me, just pressing her forehead to mine. I'm not offering scraps. My hand tightened at her waist. I don't know exactly what I'm offering yet, she said. We're 5 hours into being brave, but it's not scraps. The rain softened. I closed my eyes. I want pancakes too. She laughed, watery and sweet. That's your response? It's the safest response. The other ones are too big. Try one. I opened my eyes. There was my best friend, almost my now. Barefoot under a flower shop awning, wearing my jacket like a claim she had made without asking anyone's approval. I want to try, I said. For real, not almost. Not jokes only. Not pretending I don't look for you in every room. Her lips parted. I want dates, I continued. Plural. I want to learn what your hand feels like in mine when we're not hiding it under a table. I want to be the person you call first and the person who gets to kiss you after. You already are the person I call first. I know. I smiled a little. I'm asking for the kissing upgrade. She laughed and wiped beneath one eye. Approved, she said. A cab rolled slowly past, its roof light glowing. Hannah glanced at the street, then back at me. There's a diner 3 blocks from here that serves pancakes until 2. It's raining. We're already wet. You're barefoot. I have shoes. You're holding them like trophies. She lifted them. Because I won a wedding. You dodged a bouquet and stole my jacket. And got the man. Everything in me went still. Hannah looked suddenly shy, as if she hadn't meant to say it so plainly. But I smiled. I couldn't help it. Yeah, I said. You did. We walked to the diner in the rain anyway. She wore her heels for exactly half a block before giving up and making me carry them. By the time we slid into a red vinyl booth, damp and laughing, it was nearly midnight. The waitress gave our wedding clothes one glance and said, "Rough reception." Hannah looked at me across the table. Her foot found mine beneath it. "No," she said. "Best one I've ever been to." I reached for her hand over the sticky menu. She gave it to me. And when the waitress came back, Hannah ordered blueberry pancakes, 2 forks, and 1 extra plate. Because apparently we're sharing now. I looked at her. Are we? Her smile was small, certain, and devastating. Yes, she said. We are. The pancakes arrived looking like they had been designed by someone who believed butter could solve emotional instability. Hannah took 1 bite, closed her eyes, and made a sound that nearly ended me. I pointed my fork at her. You cannot make bakery noises in public. Her eyes opened. Bakery noises? You know exactly what I mean. I appreciate quality maple syrup with my whole self. Don't shame me. You just sighed at a pancake like it wrote you poetry. She cut another bite, dragged it through blueberry syrup, and held it across the table toward me. Maybe it did. Try it. I leaned in and took the bite from her fork. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. The diner was half empty, fluorescent, and smelled like coffee that had been sitting too long. My suit was damp. Hannah's hair was coming down in wild pieces, my jacket still around her shoulders, her bare foot hooked lightly around my ankle beneath the table. It was the best first date of my life. Okay, I admitted. The pancake has depth. Told you. It's emotionally available. Unlike your frog mug. My frog mug has seen things. She smiled, then reached into her clutch and pulled out the photo strip. We laid it between us beside the syrup. The 4 tiny pictures seemed impossible now. A whole before and after in glossy black and white. Me oblivious. Her laughing, her choosing. Us kissing. Hannah touched the final frame with one fingertip. I was so scared after this. I know. I thought you might panic. I did panic. You were very calm. I'm a teacher. I can panic internally while taking attendance. She laughed, but then her expression gentled. Thank you for not making me feel foolish. I covered her hand with mine. You were the brave one. I was impulsive. Bravery often has terrible timing. Her thumb brushed mine. Do you think we'll be terrible at this? Yes. She blinked. I smiled. At parts of it. We'll overthink. We'll misread things. You'll pretend you're fine when you aren't. I'll act like I need less than I do. We'll probably have one serious argument about dishwasher loading. There is a correct way. I knew this would destroy us. She laughed, and I squeezed her hand. But I think, I said, we'll be good at coming back. We already know how to find each other. Her eyes softened in that way that made all my jokes feel unnecessary. Brian? Yeah? I don't want to go back to my apartment alone tonight. Everything in me went very still. She must have seen the way my face changed because she leaned forward quickly. I'm not asking for anything I'm not saying. I just mean I don't want the night to end at my door with both of us pretending we're chill. I am not chill. I've noticed. I rubbed my thumb over her knuckles. Do you want me to come up? We can make tea, watch half a movie, sit too close on your couch without lying about the couch size. Relief moved through her smile. Yes, that. So that was what we did. We took a cab to her building, still damp, still grinning like teenagers. In the elevator, Hannah stood beside me in my jacket, our reflections caught in the scratched metal doors. She looked at our mirrored selves and said, We look suspicious. We look like we committed a wedding. We did flee with evidence. The elevator dinged. At her apartment door, the old fear flickered again. I saw it cross her face. The question of what changed now, what was expected, what a man might become once invited inside. I didn't step closer. I stayed in the hallway and held out my hand. Tea? Her shoulders eased. She took my hand. Tea. Inside, she changed into sweatpants and an old t-shirt while I stood in her kitchen and pretended not to know which cabinet held the mugs, even though I had been there 100 times. When she came back, she had the photo strip in one hand and a piece of tape in the other. Where should it go? She asked. My throat tightened. You want it up? She looked almost offended. Ryan, I climbed into your lap in public. I'm not hiding the receipt. We taped it to the side of her refrigerator between a bakery schedule and a magnet shaped like a croissant. Then she turned to me. No satin dress, no wedding music, no champagne courage. Just Hannah, barefoot in her kitchen, choosing me in the quiet. I touched her cheek. Hi, she smiled. Hi. The kiss that followed was soft and tired and sure. Not a beginning explosion this time, a landing. We fell asleep on her couch halfway through a nature documentary about octopuses. She tucked her feet under my thigh like always, except this time my arm was around her and neither of us pretended it was accidental. In the morning, sunlight came through her curtains, pale and ordinary. Hannah woke first. I know because I felt her watching me. When I opened one eye, she whispered, This is weird. Good weird. She thought about it. Terrifying weird. Acceptable. And good. I smiled. She leaned over and kissed me, messy-haired and morning-warm, and something in my chest settled into place, like it had been waiting years for the right shape. 6 months later, the photo strip was still on her fridge, though the edges had curled. By then, we had learned a few things. Hannah learned I became irrationally competitive during board games and needed snacks to become reasonable again. I learned she hummed when she was nervous and reorganized spice racks when she was mad. She learned I liked being asked for what I wanted. I learned she liked being believed the first time she said, no, yes, wait, more, not yet, please. We had our awkward parts. Of course we did. Once, after a long week, I tried to give her space when she needed comfort, and she cried in my hallway because she thought I was pulling away. Another time, she canceled dinner 3 times in a row because the bakery was overwhelmed, and I pretended it didn't sting until she showed up at my apartment with apology cannoli and said, "I need you to tell me when you miss me. I'm not a mind reader despite my many gifts." So I told her. She stayed. Derek tried twice from new numbers. Hannah blocked both while sitting beside me at a Sunday breakfast place, then stole my bacon and said, "Look at me, healing. You're stealing? I contain multitudes." By the following spring, Hannah moved into the apartment upstairs from the bakery she'd bought into with her savings and a small business loan that made her both nauseous and radiant. I spent weekends painting trim, building shelves, and eating all the ugly test pastries she claimed were failures. One Saturday, while rain tapped the windows, I found her standing in the kitchen doorway holding a framed copy of the photo booth strip. "You framed it?" I asked. "It's historically significant. It's blurry. It's us." She hung it on the wall by the little breakfast table where we drank coffee most mornings. Under the fourth photo, she had written in tiny ink, "Before the last flash." I stared at it for a long time. Hannah came up beside me, slid her hand into mine, and rested her head on my shoulder. "That was the moment?" she asked. I kissed her hair. "One of them." "One of them?" The lap was compelling. She pinched my side. I laughed and pulled her closer, and she turned in my arms, smiling up at me with flour on her cheek and forever in her eyes. The life we built after that wasn't perfect. It was better than perfect. It was pancakes after hard conversations. It was kissing in the kitchen while a timer screamed. It was 2 toothbrushes in the same cup, her shoes under my coffee table, my frog mug surviving against all odds. It was ordinary days, exactly as sacred as I'd imagined. And every time I looked at that photo strip, I saw the truth captured in 4 flashes. A man who thought he was just the reliable single friend, a woman laughing at the edge of courage, a choice, a kiss, and the beginning of us. What would you have done if your best friend climbed into your lap in a wedding photo booth and kissed you before the last flash? Have you ever experienced something similar where one brave moment changed everything? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.